A lot of our clients have Lyme disease and cancer, and detoxing is a huge part of the recovery process. And we know that Therasage has different types of saunas for detoxing, and you guys have a bunch of different products with infrared heat. So we just kind of wanted to ask you a bunch of questions on how all your products work and how it can help detoxing with our clients as well. I think one of the questions that we all want to know is, what is the difference between infrared saunas or really Therasage saunas as opposed to other types of saunas? What is unique about your company and the products that you make for the saunas?
Okay, so we have about 3 days for this interview, right? Because that question will take me at least a day, that answer will. But let me introduce myself. I'm Robby Besner. I'm the CEO and device developer for Therasage. And we're a socially conscious company. We've been in existence for 20 years. And most of the people that know us, particularly in the Lyme community, our whole business, this whole body of work started with us, our family, my daughter, Julia, when she was, we think around 12, she got infected with Lyme. It became chronic, and we didn't know even much about Lyme. We were living in South Florida, and so this wasn't really Lyme Central per se. And 20 plus years ago, the whole education and awareness about Lyme disease was it was a lot newer. There were a lot less Lyme literate doctors. And so we had to kind of navigate ourselves through this coral reef. And today we know so much more. I mean, there's so much better technology and hope and protocols and approaches that are very dynamic as the diseases are very dynamic in it by definition. You have to understand the variables and be able to harness them and know what tools to use in order to maintain your own health and complete your mission. I call it Earth Camp, your time while you're on Earth Camp to complete that mission. So, and really the newer definition for me and my tagline is follow your bliss. So understand what your bliss is, what your purpose is, find that, and fulfill it, and that's what we're supposed to do here. So with that, what makes Therasage different? Well, we're a company that really cares. Our devices that were born out of a mission, and the mission simply was, once we discovered, well, I'll get more personal. My daughter, when she got Lyme disease, her main symptoms were basically body pain, muscular pain, joint pain, and that moved around. And she was what I considered had systemic inflammation and also systemic toxicity. So pain, inflammation, and toxicity. I'm sure most of your viewers can relate to those topics. Having a pre-med background, I started looking into those different categories. We found ourselves what we thought was the top Lyme literate doctor at that sliver in time, which many people will still consider him that way. His name is Joseph Bioscano. He's a allopath, and we had to wait a little bit before Julia. He even had a room in his practice back then. So what we did as a family was we just focused on her symptoms and what could we do as a family to support our daughter going through her journey. And I found solace in the detox category, looking at the different forms of detoxing. Then we discovered that infrared frequencies, or the wavelengths of sun energy, also mobilize toxins, and they do it naturally. So you'd think that would be like I found the holy grail, but 20 years ago there weren't very many devices, infrared devices that were available on the marketplace, particularly for the average individual to buy. So we started developing them internally, mostly for our own personal use. For Julia, she got some amazing results. Her team of doctors, and I say that because it wasn't Joseph Bioscano. She had a neurologist, she had a pain management guy, she had a holistic doctor, she had an acupuncturist. I mean, you know the list, and it goes longer and longer. And again, many of the viewers can relate to this, that it's multi-dynamic and just on the practitioner side. And some of the problems with that is that many of these guys don't know one another, and to make it even more complicated, now doctors are treating patients virtually, so they could be on the other side of the planet giving instructions. So it gets complicated real fast. For us, we started getting results. The doctors that Julia's team of doctors were seeing that, they asked for us to develop these devices for them, for their practices, for their patients, and that was really the genesis of Therasage, the company. So now, what makes our devices different? That's a great question. And there's basically 4 pillars to our technology. We harness full spectrum infrared, so that's all of the 3 frequencies, the near, middle, and far, and each of them do different things. Prior to our full spectrum approach, most of the infrared industry focused on just far frequencies, and just recently, in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a lot of attention brought to the near frequencies for various different reasons, and we may get a chance to cover that today. I'm not sure how much time we have, so I'll leave it to you, Michelle, if you want to come back to that. But we do harness the full spectrum because part of my philosophy is that God created nature and created the planet and our relationships to our biomes, micro and macro biomes, and to nature, the sun, the earth, water, air. And I respect that. And in that context, the sun delivers full spectrum, all 3 frequencies. We're not favoring one to the other. We believe that if that's the way it was meant to deliver, because they all do different things to heal the body naturally, that we would take that approach, and more holistic approach. The other things that we do is we figured out about 14 years ago, we became sensitive to electromagnetic fields. And mostly in my mind, philosophically, I was thinking, well, if the body had to choose, my position was that EMF wasn't a healthy frequency. It was man-made and it wasn't natural. So, but infrared frequencies are natural frequencies. They're sun energy, okay? So if the body had to choose to defend itself against a man-made frequency, an EMF or an ELF, the extreme low frequencies, or feel or embrace the positive effects of infrared, what is it going to do? Protect or defend, or receive and harness and embrace? And so the brain is designed to protect and preserve. Okay? Sounds like some municipal body that's supposed to be out there protecting us too, but we know sometimes they're asleep at the wheel. Anyway, so my theory was that I don't really want, Michelle, for your body to have to choose. If I just take the EMF part of the equation out, then I know that you're getting delivered and harnessed at full spectrum infrared frequencies, and that it would help. Okay, so all right, we have a little feedback. Can somebody put their mic on or in your systems out there? Maybe not. If you mute your phone, yeah, I'm just going to mute you for now. Okay, so if we're delivering full spectrum infrared, and that's not being disrupted or filtered by the body's protection against EMF, then you get the full benefit. And that was my approach. Now, fast forward in the 15 years, we've got micro towers everywhere. In fact, when I talk about EMF, it drives me crazy. I'm so passionate about it. But we were just, we were in Tucson recently, and now they disguise cactuses that are really microwave towers, but they look like cactuses. And just recently, here in Boca Raton, Florida, where we live, we were picking up some food at the food store, and I noticed across the parking lot they were erecting what looked like a pine tree. But when they were erecting a pine tree, it was a cell tower that was disguised as a pine tree, just so it would blend into the environment, so it wouldn't be so obnoxious that you see all these, like metal structures and so forth. But the idea is that the concept is that we have a lot of them. They're all around us, and these are frequencies that are not healthy. And so what we do with all of our devices is we filter the EMF so they virtually got no electromagnetic fields. You get the full benefit of the infrared full spectrum. We also use gemstones And we use them for two reasons, because many of them give off healing energies by themselves. Most of our healing pads use natural jade stone, a stone that has, you can Google it. It's worshipped by the Asian bloc countries for 8,000 years. In the sauna, we use natural tourmaline, and we farm it from one of the longevity towns where people live an average of 105 years old, because the tourmaline is so strong in generating negative ions, which is an earth charge, that it really helps the body balance energetically. So we bring negative ion charge both through the way that our devices are powered. They harness the electrical wiring that you have in your sockets, so they're grounded from that perspective. And plus the gemstones that we select for each of our devices, they also create both healing events from their energies and also from a negative ion point of view. So those are the four basic principles, and no one else is doing this right now, Michelle. We're kind of the only guys that are out there that are actually putting so much into our devices to add benefits and healing for the body.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. That was very informative. So as you know, we work with a lot of people with Lyme disease and cancer, and many of our clients go over to either Germany or Mexico to receive hyperthermia treatment. Now, something that we're really big on is detoxification, because the more you detox, the better you're going to tolerate hyperthermia treatments and also many of the other treatments that they have there. But then after hyperthermia treatment, there's a really large die-off reaction. And whenever you're doing antimicrobial treatment, when you kill a lot of pathogens, they expel toxins. Toxins can also create inflammation and cytokines and cell membrane damage. So we want to get these toxins out. And that's where, detoxing therapies come in. One of my favorite is infrared saunas. So I'm sure that these saunas can help not only people with Lyme disease and cancer, but many of our clients also have mold issues. They have heavy metal issues. They're just super toxic because their immune system is compromised. A lot of them have methylation issues, so they have different genes that aren't allowing them to expel toxins as effectively as possible. Do Therasage saunas and products, do they help with mold issues? Do they help with heavy metal issues?
Yes is the answer. Yes, 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 yes to all of that, all and everything that you just talked about. Uh, Actually, earlier we had a little brief discussion about how important detox is and when you do it. So what we've noticed is that many protocols work, but based on the dosage and the order that you do the protocols in might make the difference between you having just a moderate result or a really great result from the protocol. And so we're noticing that no matter what road you go down, because there are many approaches, and that's individual, because what we noticed about Lyme disease particularly is because it takes so many forms and affects people in so many different ways, and it's expressed in their symptoms, that universally, if you lower the toxic burden, you do a detox protocol before you do any protocol that actively goes after, let's say, the Lyme or any of the co-infections that follow Lyme and so forth, that you're going to have a better result, because you lower the toxic load, you lower the inflammation. And just as you articulated a minute ago, if you go after, you do a proactive, you raise core temperature, hypothermia, you do whatever the protocol is, and you're successful at it, you're killing Lyme, the dead Lyme in the body, and or the co-infections, or any of the other things like mold or some other parasites that travel along in the families, or some other microbes that travel along in the family. When there's that ultimate die-off, that becomes a toxin. And remember, it's sort of a fashion of like, let's make believe you've got this goblet and it's filled to the brim, and that's your level of toxicity. As soon as you do a protocol that adds more toxins, though, that starts to go over the top of the brim of the glass. If we can lower that burden down to halfway, so then if we do a protocol and we start filling that glass back up again, then the patient may not be as symptomatic. The road may not be so bumpy. Unfortunately, and I know this is out there, that many Lyme doctors they tell the patient, look, you're going to do this protocol, and you know it's going to be working because you're going to start feeling yucky.
Hmm.
And the reason why you feel yucky is really just a function of toxic burden. And so if you lower the toxic burden or lower the toxic load, then you may not ever have to feel yucky from a protocol. And so I really think it's so important that the viewers really understand that it doesn't take a whole lot. It's not ultra, uber expensive to do some of these detox protocols. The sauna is just a universally feel-good product. I mean, it's probably the most natural detox device you can get on the planet now. And it's not expensive, and it comes in different formats. Traditionally, people know about the wooden ones. We're actually getting a lot more feedback from the practitioner, both Lyme literate, functional, integrated doctors, that the formats where the head is out is actually even more favorable because, as you mentioned earlier, the brain is much more sensitive to higher temperatures than the body is. And so when we're doing protocols that are a little bit more advanced and for your viewers and through your agency, I'm happy to tender the protocols that we put together that pair both the infrared technology, the timing, when to step into things. So we'll share that with you, and then you guys can post it, or people can blog, or however they get in touch with you, so that they'll be available for you to offer out. But
Okay.
yeah, if you could do a detox protocol first, I think that's going to help in many ways.
And then do you have any recommendations? I mean, I still do infrared saunas for maintenance. And I used to do it, I used to try to do infrared saunas probably 2 to 3 times a week before I went for treatment and then when I came back from treatment. And now I try to do it like a few times a month for maintenance. And I always feel better when I get out of the sauna. But I do a few things before I go in. I'll dry brush. Sometimes I'll take a toxin binder. I always bring water. I make sure my water bottle is in plastic. I have a glass one. Do you have any recommendations for our clients that you have felt have been very helpful, certain binders, or what you would recommend? What do you think?
Great question. Well, all right. So to start with, infrared frequencies, infrared sauna, it's a cumulative type of approach. So the more you do it, the better you feel. The more you do it, the less toxic you are, the better you feel. And when I say the better you feel, it could translate that you get a better night's sleep, or you're not in as much pain, or you're less symptomatic, you're less food sensitive or chemical sensitive. Um, uh, it could mean that you get a better night's sleep. You know, things like that. That's how subtle it could be. But so oftentimes when I teach, when I'm asked the question, how often should I be using the sauna, I respond with a question which my parents always hated about me when I was a child. Um, and that question is, how often do you get toxic? Do you get toxic Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Because if you do, I'm moving to your town. Because as far as I can tell, in the environment that we live in these days, the air is polluted. There's 70% of our rainwater has glyphosate in it now, which is a horrible chemical that upsets your GI tract. The air is polluted, as we know, and with the air pollution and the water pollution, we know that our foods are now being polluted. So one way or another, we become what we call biofilters, meaning that we eat all these toxic things or we get exposed to them, and then our own natural systems get all clogged up because they're not accustomed to dealing with all these chemicals and dealing with all, the chemtrails and all the different things that we're exposed to these days. So the short answer is do the sauna every day. And where I start everybody, and I'm talking everyone because I assume that their toxic is a moderate temperature of around 130 degrees, which is whatever, 23 degrees warmer than your body core. And we look for a 30-minute session. And the caveat is to be aware of certain detox signs, which would be lightheadedness, nausea, dizziness, or lethargy. And sometimes you feel tired or lethargy maybe an hour after, not right away. But all that suggests is that your toxic burden has elevated a little bit. It always expresses itself in your blood. So So what the infrared frequencies do is they create a vibration or resonance. And as the vibration comes into the body, it actually mobilizes all the toxins inside of you. That's like stirring up the bottom of the pond. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now that extra toxin is coming into your bloodstream. The bloodstream is a closed system, eventually gets up to the brain, and the brain basically gets like disoriented on the new toxic burden. So it's so essential that you drink about 8 to 10 ounces before you do your sauna, and that's going to promote sweating. And it's super essential that you drink about the same amount of water after your sauna, because then you're lowering or diluting the new toxic load that we're introducing into your stream. Now, even though our goal would be 30 minutes, if you're 20 minutes in and you're extra burdened or extra toxic today for whatever reason, and at 20 minutes in you start feeling a little lightheaded or woozy, you don't go for the extra 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is about learning to hear what the signs of what your body is telling you in feedback. And when it tells you that it's feeling a little dizzy or nauseous, that means your brain's already reacting to the toxic burden. And what we don't want is basically to create a Herx reaction or an over toxic reaction from a protocol as simple as one that we're looking to detox. And so if we're smart about it and understanding that this is a slow and steady process, we get toxic a little bit every day, and we're going to become less toxic a little bit every day. But the sauna is a really great tool to use. And earlier you said the use of binders, and now we're finding mobilizing the toxins and getting them to your body so that you can start sweating out some of these toxins is a super way to do it. But to make it even easier, combining certain binders like activated charcoal or carbon, bentonite clay I love, using cilantro and certain herbs in your diet, superfoods. But you got to be careful where you choose those superfoods, because some of those waters that the superfoods are like spirulina and so forth, they're polluted now. So you have to be careful about your source for that. But these are all inexpensive, great ways. Add them into your diet, add into your shake drink, and to help bind up all these toxins we're mobilizing and make it easier for you to get them out of your body.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so I was looking at some of your other products, and I noticed that you guys have a therma healing pad. And so when I was reading the description and looking into it a little bit more, I mean, I know with a lot of our clients, they have different inflammation issues. So some of them will have like joint pains or neck issues. But it seems like this could be for really anyone, even if they have like back issues. And so could you tell us a little bit about how these healing pads work and how you would use them?
Okay, so like all of our devices, full spectrum infrared, gemstone technology, no EMF, and we have grounding earth mats or negative ion technology. So all of our devices have the same thing. All of our healing pads are considered class 2 medical devices with the FDA, so we're listed there. And they also have insurance coverages. So many of the patients out there are now finding that some of their companies are are able to cover some of those expenses. So if your viewers are, let's say, on Medicare or Medicaid entitlements, and they get their doctors to write a prescription for our devices, then they'll get reimbursed by the government for it. So that's a big boost. Now the difference in why we developed the healing pads as well as the saunas is because the sauna really addresses full body. It's like having 5 or 6 healing pads all around you. Okay, so you're bathing in the frequencies. And now the healing pads have specific uses. So we have one pad that's the size of a loose leaf piece of paper, and you can put it on a shoulder or a joint. Or if you're let's say you want to, I call it thera love, or bring some love to an organ. You want to do an organ cleansing like liver or kidney or pancreas or gallbladder. You can bring the infrared frequencies right to a particular area that you want to heal. And so it's a very, very different feeling. And even though the saunas, the ones that favor these days are these portable ones, they're kind of pop up and they're tent-like. And I'm sure if you go on our website, or you guys can show through your viewership what they look like. The pads, they come in different sizes, and the mini and the small pad are really convenient for traveling. So even though the portable sauna is portable and can fold up and do all those things, the pads are even more portable. So if you're traveling, you can have that pad with you. And honestly speaking, I mean, I walk the walk and talk the talk here. And I have a healing pad on my office chair. I sleep with a healing pad. We travel with healing pads. So I really, as much as we are surrounded with frequencies that are harmful for us, I try to surround myself with frequencies that are healthy. And I know the infrared spectrum is. You can't get too much infrared frequency. So it's a really great one. And for your viewers, they should know. I mean, if they're in pain, or if they're looking to do a cleansing, it's probably the best product on the planet for you to get, those healing pads.
Okay. You were talking a little bit of frequencies, and that kind of made me think of EMF, so electromagnetic frequencies, which so many people are dealing with, especially in this world with cell phones and computers and everything. I know that you guys sell some products to help with EMF frequencies, and how does that work exactly? I've always been curious about that.
Okay, so 14 years ago, when I had my theory that that EMFs were bad for you, and that I didn't want your body to choose, we taught ourselves, discovered that there are certain earth elements out there that actually will filter and shield electromagnetic fields. So for instance, one of them, which I'm going to show you right now, is a stone that looks like that. And how well can you see that?
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so this stone is called tektite, and I travel around the world gathering all these different stones and elements because they generate frequencies. Tektite is actually a meteorite, and we crush the meteorite up, and as well as other earth elements like shungite from Russia and natural gemstones like jade and rose granite that we farm in tourmaline, that we farm in very particular parts of the world because we test them with using muscle testing and other techniques to identify which are the best stones and which ones offer the most frequencies, best quality frequencies. And then we grind them up and then we put them into different formats. And now initially we were just doing it for all of our devices. Then we started to get them into micro powders and actually infuse them into the threads and the materials that we use. So that when you're in the tent sauna, those materials are actually generating frequencies, healthy frequencies too from these stones. And then what we did was, and we studied trends, and we noticed, my God, the amount of cell towers are increasing, the amount of cell phones are increasing. I started looking at all the studies on cell phones, and they're more than 20 years old, and they're based on using a cell phone for 20 minutes at a time. Who does that? I'd like to know. If you own a cell phone, that's your primary way of communicating these days, right? So understanding that trend, we broke out the remediating part of the way that we remediate for EMF, and we made it into 3 available formats. So one is a little chip that you can put on your phone or your laptop. The other is a bigger size chip that you can use in your car, or let's say an home office, that is about less than 1,000 square feet. And we will be coming out shortly with a larger format that can basically do a whole house or anything between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet. So what we do is we combine all these earth elements. There's a very particular test that's called a SARS test. That's an acronym. It's pretty expensive. And so all of our devices, our main community is the healthcare community, the health professional. And so everything we do is what's called evidence-based, which means that we contract with outside third-party consultants that are experts in analyzing our devices. Certainly the FDA was one big qualification. So we've taken actually a higher standard than even FDA standards, which now globally is considered the Mac Daddy of agencies that opine over the authenticity or the effectiveness of a particular device in order to get that credential. So it's very expensive and it takes a long time to get it. So we went through all of that because we wanted to take the highest road to get to the community. And we didn't want barriers like many of the allopathic doctors say, well, we need a double-blind study and we need all these things in order for it to happen. And what that does is it basically deprives our community, our tribe, the people that are sick out there from really sort of very well natural approaches to healing, as well as inexpensive and efficient ways to heal. And so we wanted to bear that expense and burden so that we could go directly to the healthcare provider, and through that also touch the viewers, our tribe, our people out there. So, so one of the things that people aren't aware of is that electromagnetic fields have a very particular counterclockwise spin to them. And so all of our devices will actually reverse the spin of the EMF and move it in a clockwise fashion. And just changing that shift in energy makes the difference between an EMF that will pull your life energy and source and be negative to you and turn it into a more of a positive deal. Also, the SARS tests will show you that we shield and protect more than 98% of the electromagnetic fields and the radiation that come from your cell phone or anything that's connected to a micro tower. So.
Okay. And you can put these products on like your laptop. I notice I'm in school right now, and I'll be up late studying or writing papers, and by 1 in the morning, I kind of feel wired when I'm done. And so do you think if I had something for my laptop, that might help reduce that wired feeling?
Oh, absolutely. You need it for your laptop or your cell phone. And the sad part about it, honestly, Michelle, it's like, just recently in California, they passed the 5G network. You'd be able to have a 5G network, and a 5G wireless network will go a half a mile and through cinder block. So you can protect yourself and be really diligent about it, but what about your neighbor? How do you protect yourself from your neighbor, right? And, just recently I've been teaching for 14 years at Hippocrates Health Institute here in West Palm Beach. And I had a guest who had a tumor in her belly the size of a football. Her boyfriend had testicular cancer, and her pet dog had all kinds of tumors up and down their leg. We started talking there was about 35 other guests that were in this little training or gathering. And I said, tell me about where you live. And she started describing. She goes, by the way, everybody in my whole building complex is sick. And I said, okay, do you guys have smart meters? And they go, yeah. She goes, let me show you a picture of my apartment where I'm at. And underneath the window that's right behind her bed, there were 16 smart meters. Okay? I'm seeing you cringe there a little bit.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Yeah. So I said to her, well, you think this could be part of the problem? She goes, yeah, well, what should I do? And she says to me, well, I'm here at Hippocrates, so I'm already being proactive and trying to take care of my health. I go, well, what are you going to do when you leave Hippocrates? Where do you go? Well, I go back home. I go, so you're here for 10 days, and then you're going to go back home and sleep or live in that apartment. That's probably the root of your problem. A smart meter is the equivalent of having about 10 microwave ovens on with the doors open. That's how much microwave tower that microwaves that smart meter pulls in. The very idea that she had 16 so close to her head, to her bed, is it's a wonder that she's actually still walking. That's the way I felt about it. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing to understand is that yes, you can it starts with this discussion, making your viewers aware that EMF is a serious problem. And particularly for the Lyme community and cancer, there's a pretty famous Lyme doctor named Dietrich Klinghardt. You guys, I think you're aware of him. And he released a blood study that he analyzed the blood and the amount of neuro and endotoxins in the blood of his Lyme patients. Half came from the cities, half came from rural areas. And the concentration of neurotoxins in the blood from the patients from the cities was 80 times greater. Now, they're eating the same food, they're drinking the same water, and they're breathing the same air. And Dr. Klinghardt just surmised the only difference is the concentration of cell towers in the cities is so much greater that these electromagnetic fields that come from these micro towers are actually energizing the microbes, the Lyme disease, the mold, the parasites. It's giving them energy. And what does that mean? That means that they use more of your life resources. They're multiplying at a greater rate, and they're pooping more. That's the neurotoxin. That's the endotoxin, right? So it's clear to me that EMF is a problem. It starts with becoming aware, that as we're talking about it today, and then doing something about it. Shield your laptop, shield your telephone, get a device for your room and for your house. If you trust that the cell phone company is going to take care of you, no, they're about the money. In fact, the two agencies that control the level of frequencies that are allowed in radio frequencies and wireless telephones, as well as for micro towers and cell phones, the two agencies are the FTC and the FCC, and there isn't a single health-minded person that sits on those committees that actually make the regulations. So they're not here to protect us. We have to know better. So you don't need to necessarily get our devices. There are other companies that make great devices out there that shield EMF. The important thing is to know to protect. God, just think about the new mother that just brought their baby home. The baby's 4 days old. They get one of these wireless devices that has a camera on it and a microphone so that they can be in another room and start getting their lives back and be more social. And that poor baby is swimming in these frequencies that, I think it explains why autism rates are up, and, because the kids are traveling with these. They don't carry books anymore. They just carry tablets. So, you have to be really careful, and you have to be conscious, and you have to do something about it, because the companies that make the devices are not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually last year I got one of those doggy cams for when I'm out and about. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, I have a really small dog. This probably isn't good for her. So yeah, I can't imagine what they can do to a baby. Yes, it's scary.
Yeah, between 0 and 15 is when basically your brain, the neural pathways are forming. And the idea that the ability for your brain to naturally find and connect the dots, the proper pathways, is impaired because of radio frequencies and EMFs from these wireless devices. It deeply disturbs me. And many countries and many towns in Europe are banning wireless devices for that reason. Many of the schools in the U.S. that used to have the computer labs that went wireless are now taking the wireless devices out and making everything wired again. And so that's all part of it. I know you guys are keen on it, and I'm sure you have your own ideas about the best ways to remediate your homes. But it really does start in the home, and it does start from dialogues like this. And I'm happy to spend another time with you in a different interview, and we can talk specifically on this topic and the best ways to remediate, and we can cover and come back over this if you'd like.
That sounds good. I mean, you definitely answered a lot of my questions. Is there anything that you wanted to tell us about, or?
Well, let me see. We covered EMF.
I did see your water filter right behind you, and I was wondering how that works.
Oh yeah, this is actually, this is pretty cool. It looks kind of like a Brita filter. It's called Therasage H2O, and I got inspired to build this and also a countertop version that plugs right into your faucet because of the work of Gerald Pollack, and he is now considered the world's authority on water. And what he discovered was that there's certain frequencies in the infrared spectrum, which we cover in our full spectrum approach, that actually will restructure the water inside of you. And that's so important for cell function. So earlier we talked about why many of our the Lyme patients, their detox pathways are turned off. The switches are turned off. They have problems cellular with the cellular function and methylation, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the water inside their bodies is sort of cloudy and murky. And when it's ordered, and structured, it's clear. It's like a domino effect. Water is a key to cell function. It takes the nutrients and minerals into the cell and allows the cell to get waste products and toxins out. So if the water isn't, and Gerald Pollack proved this in clinic, that all the patients that he studied that were healthy had structured water in their body. And all the ones that had murky water or non-structured water, they all had pathogens. They were all sick. So, so infrared frequency, that infrared sauna, using the healing pads, bringing that frequencies to the body, restructures the water inside of you, and it really makes a big difference. So we took the same materials, like these kinds of materials that I discovered, and we actually put it into that filter that's inside that little canister. And so this guy has a 6-stage filter inside of it, and it's good for about maybe 300 gallons or about 3 months. It costs less than 8 cents a gallon for you to make this water. So what I do is I have an RO filter under my sink, and then I dump that RO water right into the top of this guy right here, and then I drink and I cook from this little canister. So it's economical and it's inexpensive and it's a great way to get structured water inside of you. The other thing that we didn't cover, but I'd love to just share with everyone, is a concept called a redox signaling molecule. And there is a supplement called a SIA on the market that is a liquid that you can drink that actually gives you a redox molecule. Redox molecules are like the uber antioxidants. And we make a lot of them when we're younger, and we make less of them as we get older, and that's why we have more oxidative stress, which is a really important topic for all the limeys out there, because microbes starve the body of oxygen. They're anaerobes. So if you have more oxygen in your blood, it's a great simple therapy to fight off, the advancements of Lyme disease. So having structured water and using infrared frequency actually creates more redox signaling molecules in the body, so you can naturally, absorb all these free radicals and all these poisons and help expel them through the body. So, wow, boy, we covered a lot in a short time tonight. So thank you so much for having me on. I hope it's the beginning of other kinds of interviews like this, and it's really important for us to share our body of work and our technology with the viewership out there and with you. And, of course, we would hope that your viewers take a closer look at the development and the products that we make and devices we make. But really, we're just open to elevate awareness on all these categories. And so if you choose us, great. And if you go another way, it doesn't matter to us, because ultimately we're just looking to try to help people heal from a natural point of view.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate your time and all your information. I like that you guys really understand all the different recovery factors when you're dealing with an illness, and you take the whole body natural approach, which is something that our company definitely feels is the way to go in getting your life better for more like sustainable, optimal results.